Hi guys, so I have no idea if anyone's going to be remotely interested in watching this, but one person asked me the question recently, and sometimes that's all that it takes to spark an idea. And I figured that perhaps this might be useful for some people or interesting to some people even. So yeah, I want to talk to you about my plan to become more self-sufficient. Essentially, I've mentioned before that it's something that I would like to achieve, and although achieving complete self-sufficiency is obviously, well, it's not easy and it takes a long time, I think, or very drastic changes in your life. I want to do a step-by-step journey to sort of growing into self-sufficiency, if you will. So I'll take you through the steps that I'm already sort of planning and achieving, and then the next steps that I'm planning. And then obviously once I achieve all of that, I will then look into further ways of achieving more self-sufficiency. So let's kick off. And the first, and I suppose most obvious thing to everyone, is solar panels. So solar panels are currently on my list of what I want to do, almost like top of my list, if you will. Now, solar panels themselves don't necessarily achieve self-sufficiency because you're still reliant on the grid running to use them. Especially in Poland. So in Poland, it's a little bit more difficult to have solar panels off-grid. So 9 times out of 10, you have to be still connected to the grid. I think there are ways around it. Initially, I was told that there weren't, but I'm now hearing that there might be some ways of sort of disconnecting from the grid. Now, I don't necessarily want to do that initially. I want to essentially have a backup. So the way that it works in Poland, and I've not looked at how solar panels work in the UK, but I'm assuming it's something similar. It's that when you overproduce, either you store it in the energy company, or they buy it back from you and then you buy it back from them when you need it, sort of thing, at varying rates. Now, what I want to do obviously as a first step, I need to get solar panels. Like, that's the most expensive thing initially. But the second step in that is going to be to also get like a power bank / generator type machine. I don't actually know what it's called. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. But essentially a way to store energy on my land. So currently, if you have solar panels but there's still no power, you can't really use it. You still won't have power, essentially. So I want to have the energy storage on site, but it is very expensive, especially if you want anything half decent that would last a bit of time rather than like an hour or two. So it is on my list, and it's something that I want to achieve, but probably in like a year or two, maybe, depending on the money situation. The next thing actually is the septic tank. So currently, where I live, there's no sewage, and I've mentioned this in videos about the house build. So the sewage tank that I want to have is essentially the self-cleaning one. So with this one, it's a little bit different to the ones where someone has to come and empty it every month or so, because to me, that's not really self-sufficient. I mean, it's not relying on maybe the state, but you're still relying on someone else being available to come and empty it. Otherwise, it's going to start overflowing. But the self-cleaning one, essentially, it has drainage. You put bacteria into it that eats all of the solids and all of the dirt, and then everything else, all the clean water, basically just gets drained out through the drainage. So it's quite eco-friendly. The bacteria cleans it, so it's pretty cool. And essentially, they say you should empty like the things that the bacteria can't eat once a year, but you could push it, realistically, you could push it a lot longer. So to me, that's like the least reliant on people. Obviously, if anything ever happened, you can then, I don't know, go in the woods or something. But this is a pretty good solution that would go long term without needing any additional support. Now, the next thing is that I've started growing some of my own food already. I want to go far in this, much further than I am currently, but what I have so far, I have strawberries, which have actually produced pretty tasty strawberries so far. Obviously, I'm going to get more of those. I have raspberries, which haven't produced fruit yet, but here's hoping. I have some herbs, so like mint and thyme. Mint and rosemary I think I have. But obviously I'm going to get more herbs because that's a pretty good place to start. If you haven't started with like fruit or veg, I think herbs are a good way to start. And I used to have herbs in my flat in London, which was really cool. So, you know, things like I said, mint, basil, all that kind of stuff. And also spring onions are fairly easy to grow yourself. Anyway, I also have, outside of strawberries and herbs, I have planted a lot of fruit trees. Now, whether or not any of them actually produce fruit, who knows? Because everyone I've told, in terms of like neighbors and stuff, that I've planted fruit trees, think I'm insane because apparently it's a lot of work, and you have to fertilize them and spray them for bugs and cut them and like really take care of them. But we'll see. I want to try. If I don't try, I won't learn. So here's hoping. I've got an apple tree. I've got a peach tree, which I do think that one's probably not going to produce fruit because it's already ill. And from the comments that I've seen on posts about this, most people give up with peach trees because you end up having to spray it so much that it doesn't even make sense to just have your own, because if you want sprayed fruit, just buy it from the supermarket. I have a prune tree, I have a pear tree, and a couple others that I can't remember now. We'll see when they produce fruit. But I also want to do like blueberries and just berries generally. And I have lettuce as well. So I want to do some vegetables as well. But vegetables take more time, and time is something I'm very short on at the moment. But eventually, once I have more time to spare, I do want to start doing vegetable gardening as well. So naturally, leading on from growing my own food, there are two next steps that I want to do. The first one is going to be preserving food. So things like making jams and just canning stuff and preserving it. So you can have lots and lots of beautiful strawberries in the summer, and either you eat them or they go bad. So yes, freezing some, because sometimes you just want some raw strawberries. But essentially, if something happened to the power, you would never be able to eat everything, right, that you have in the freezer in the short time frame that it would take for the freezer to defrost. So what I would like to do is also preserve food. Firstly, for that reason, for in the event of some sort of power emergency for longer than a few days, but also because sometimes it's nice to have some jam and you don't want to be having to make it from scratch every single time. So this is something that like my mum is very good at, and I really want to learn from her. I've actually talked about this in one of my like preparing for an emergency videos. I can't remember which one. I'm going to find it and link it somewhere so that you can have a look. But essentially, like jams, pickles, very popular in Poland, all that kind of stuff. So that would just be really cool, because it means that when there's lots of food in the summer, you can prepare it for the winter. And I've been watching so many videos on YouTube of like all these like homestead pantries where like they basically eat mostly from their own land for the whole year, and it's just fascinating. And I really would love to achieve that, because obviously that's financially helpful as well. So the second thing that leads on from that is a chicken coop. So eventually I want to have a chicken coop. Now, I thought I would get it a lot sooner, but I'm just not in a place to get a chicken coop yet. I don't have the time, the expertise. I want to get a little bit further into like the fruit and veg and preserving first, and then I'll look at getting a chicken coop, because firstly, if I ever go anywhere, no one is going to want to look after chickens, and secondly, it's just another thing to add to my list of things. It's very early, I'm still very tired, but you know what I mean. So having a chicken coop for me, it's not about the meat from the chickens, it's about the eggs, right? Because eggs are a great source of protein. And if you want to be self-sufficient, you need to have protein sources. Obviously, before I get the comments, I know it's not as much protein as meat, but it's nice to have that availability of protein. And so many people in Poland, I'm telling you, so many people, at least in the villages, grow their own fruit and veg and have chickens. And it's so inspiring, and not everyone, but like so many people, and I would like to get to that place. So that's in the plan. The next thing is rainwater catchments. So I have 3 already. They're not installed yet. I'm still begging and begging and begging for someone to come and install them for me. But that's a start. So I think it's 250 litres, 250 litres and 1,000 litres. So I have those 3. So that's a good start, because there have been such droughts in Poland, especially in certain areas of Poland, including the one where I'm going to live. Just having that as a backup to water the garden and things like that would be awesome. So that I already have, I just need it installed, and I'll probably add to that whenever I can, just to increase that rainwater catchment. And on top of that, I would like to do some sort of rainwater like distribution to make it a little bit more effective when it does rain in watering my plants and not just everywhere else. But that's like a future step. The next one is financial freedom, because obviously you can't be self-sufficient if you have debts and things like that. Debts, mortgages, all of that stuff. Obviously passive income comes into it, because yes, there is an element of being able to be fully, completely self-sufficient. And I mean, that is the dream, but that is a long way away. And I think in this society, it's quite difficult to be completely self-sufficient. Not impossible, but difficult. And having some form of passive income initially would be great. So that's for things like, I don't know, feeding your chickens, or like buying things that you need to preserve food. You know, I'm not going to grow my own sugar and salt and things. So it would be nice to have no debt, no mortgage, and lots of passive income. So obviously I'm already somewhat there. I was completely debt-free. I'm obviously not anymore. If you've been watching my videos, I had to take out a loan for my house build, but that's fine. And yeah, waffling. So the final thing on my list currently is composting. So I want to learn to compost. I want to have a compost. I saw a pretty cool machine, but it was really expensive. So just a normal compost I think would be fine. And generally I would like to buy the piece of land next to me, but the woman who owns it has no interest in selling it at the moment. But that's the plan. So I want to save lots of money so that if and when that piece of land becomes available, I'm able to buy it. And from that land, really make that like a space for food growing and chickens and composting and all of that kind of goodness. So keep your fingers crossed that she will sell it eventually, because that would be really cool. So I guess the final thing to say is, firstly, have I missed anything that you think should be on this list? I know there are far more things on self-sufficiency that I could do, like learning to make soap and having cows and goats and whatever else. Great, but not for now. But yeah, just let me know if you think there's anything that's like an easy win that I've missed from my plan. Let me know what you think of the plan, and let me know if you'd be interested in seeing the journey generally. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.